senior staff, members of the gallery and the press, a warm welcome to you, and declare this May meeting of Temora Shire Council open. Oh, whoops, as the recording commenced. Thank you. A warm welcome to councillors, to our senior staff, to members of the gallery and the press. Thank you very much for being with us. And in declaring the meeting open, just to advise that we are being recorded and will be placed on Temora Shire Council's webpage for public information. And all present today, we are reminded that whilst we're speaking, that we're agreeing that our views and comments are being recorded and published. And we're also reminded that if or when that we are speaking, that we're, of course, to be respectful to others and using the appropriate language. Temora Shire Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures during this council meeting. Thank you very much. I now would invite Auxiliary Lieutenant Caleb Smith to lead us in our opening prayer. Thank you very much, and we also bid welcome to Mr. Glenn Parsons from the Sacred Heart Catholic Church as well. So, thank you.
Heavenly Father, thank you for, Temora Shire, and what a wonderful place it is to live. We thank you as well for our Shire staff, for the work that they do, all those behind-the-scenes jobs it's so easy for the rest of us to forget, which nonetheless make this place what it is. So thank you for them and bless them in their work. Dear God, we pray too for this meeting today. We ask that you bless all present and every decision made this afternoon and, this evening too. Especially considering it is a budget meeting. We ask for courage when it comes to make those big, tough decisions. And again, bless all those present here today, the decisions that they make. And finally, dear God, thinking of Jean Groth's funeral coming up on Tuesday, dear God, we thank you for the volunteers of Temora Shire, the people who make our schools, our churches, our sporting clubs, our community groups what they are. Thank you for them. Bless them in their work. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Auxiliary Lieutenant Smith, and Council wish you and the team a very successful Red Shield appeal next weekend. And
refrain from praying for clear skies because I understand the farmers don't want that.
Exactly. But thank you very, very much for that opening prayer. And thank you, Mr. Parsons.
Thank you.
Our acknowledgement of country. As we begin our meeting today, Temora Shire Council acknowledge the traditional owners of Temora Shire's land and waters, the Wiradjuri people, and we acknowledge their continued connection to country and to culture, and we pay our heartfelt respects to elders both past and present, acknowledging their contribution to the Temora Shire community, a place we all call home. So thank you very, very much. Apologies, Madam General Manager. I understand we have Mr. Dunstan, the Director of Environmental Services.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, there's no other apologies.
Thank you. And noting Councillor McLaren is actually with us via Zoom. Thank you, Councillor McLaren, for making time to Zoom in. We know you have other pressing commitments, but we thank you for making time for this council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Now, a mover, please, that we accept the apology of the Director of Environmental Services. Thank you, Councillor Good. Councillor Judd, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you very much. Any declaration of any interest at this time, please? No. Thank you. Councillor McLaren? No, she's right. Let's go to confirmation of the previous minutes of Temora Shire Council. That was the April meeting. Someone that was present care to move that they be received as a true and correct record. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. Thank you, Councillor Good. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. For the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. And we'll just try and remember that we've got to keep an eye on Councillor McLaren if she wants to move and second motions. So, thank you. Matters arising, Madam General Manager, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's no matters arising.
Thank you. Councillors, we now proceed to the mayoral minute and acknowledge special guest in the gallery here today, Mr. John Harper, OAM, and it's a real joy to have him here together with, I know, two of his very good friends and supporters among the many, Mrs. Nancy White and, of course, Mrs. Helen Judd. So I will now proceed with the reading of this mayoral minute. Number one, Temora Shire Council formally acknowledges Mr. John Derek China Harper, OAM, who is present with us in the chamber tonight. Mr. Harper was included in this year's Australia Day Honours List, being awarded the Medal of the Order of Australia for service to community health. This national accolade through the Australian honour system was to formally acknowledge Mr. Harper's significant work in the field of mental health. He is the founder of the very successful Mate Helping Mate program, which was established in 2006 and is adopted throughout Australia. Mr. Harper has not only assisted countless Temora Shire citizens, families and organisations, he has travelled extensively across Australia to share his personal experiences with depression and how talking to a mate does really help. The time, effort and money that Mr. Harper has contributed to helping others is immeasurable. Mr. Harper has no clinical qualifications, however, he has lived experiences which he uses to help others. And one cannot accurately quantify the lives he has saved. However, there are many. These are among those special bonds that Mr. Harper will cherish for the rest of time. Mr. Harper has sat on and continues to sit on several boards and committees, and he was the Deputy Chairman for many years at our Temora District Hospital. I appreciate Mr. Harper's plain talking, his profound care for others, and genuine desire to help make a difference in people's lives. Temora Shire councillors, our staff and our citizens warmly congratulates Mr. Harper on being among the 28,208 Australians who have been honoured with an Order of Australia medal since the Australian honour system was introduced in 1975. Council also acknowledges the strong and unwavering support of Mr. Harper's wife, Mrs. Michelle Harper, together with his family. So to you, Mr. Harper, I know you're you don't like compliments and praise, however, when it's due and you've received an honour in the Australia Honours List, it is something this council and this community wish to formally acknowledge. And finally, that we've been able to hog-tie you here, and I thank Councillor Judd and Mrs. Rands for making these arrangements. We salute you and say well done.
If I may, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
a few words. I'm extremely honoured that I've been nominated for this by fellow community members. I think this is an award that is shared by the whole community because the characteristics and actions I do are only a mirror of the community that made me, which is Temora Shire. So I think we all deserve a pat on the back, and thank you, Nancy and Helen, for nominating me. But as I said, I'm only a mirror of this community, and I think we're doing a bloody good job.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, and I know that it's not usual practice during a mayoral minute, but I'm going to invite other councillors that wish to say any words or share some reflections. Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I had the occasion to attend the men's breakfast in Temora and back in February this year, and John was the guest speaker that day, and I was talking to him afterwards, and I said, "Congratulations, anything been said going to do anything?" And he said, "Oh, I didn't think so." And anyway, so it was after that I spoke to the Mayor and General Managers about we need to do something to recognise the great work that John's done over many years. I do note that John started his program Helping Mate back in 2006. Now, on reflection, that is actually in the probably the high, in the middle of the what they call the Millennium Drought. and that was when many people were suffering from depression. And I had the occasion back then to be on a car trip with the former federal member for Riverina, Kay Hull. And Kay was telling me at the time she was dealing with at least 1, 2 or 3 farmer suicides every week during that time in the depression. So we needed help, and it was just people like John who was coming along, saw the need to do something, and congratulating him for starting his program with mental health. And I think, as the Mayor has said, I think he's saved many, many lives. And I congratulate John and welcome him and congratulate him on his award. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Judd. Any other councillor wish to comment at this time? If not, again, thank you very much, Mr. Harper, and again, keep up the good work. We know you're commencing a new chapter of your life at the moment, and enjoy it, but we know you'll still be continuing to help others as you've always done. So thank you very much. Oh, sorry, yes, thank you, Councillor Judd. The Executive Assistant, Mrs Rands, advises us a little earlier that the honour boards will be updated as a priority. We had put the request in, so your name will appear on the Australian Honours List board outside the chamber very soon. And we know you are very worried about that. But again, thank you so much. Now, number 2, and finally, but importantly as well, in the mayoral minute, Temora Shire councillors, staff and citizens have learned of the recent passing of Mr Brian Henry Carlefeld OAM, formerly of Temora, at the age of 96. Mr Carlefeld, together with his wife, Mrs Joy Carlefeld, was presented with the highest honour a council and community may bestow on any individual, couple or group, the Freedom of the Temora Shire Award. In 2008, the councillors of the day voted unanimously to honour Mr and Mrs Carlefeld in this significant way. Then Mayor of Temora Shire, Mr Peter Melville Spears OAM, formally presented the honour to Mr and Mrs Carlefeld in 2008 at a civic reception. Mr Carlefeld was a major benefactor to several Temora Shire community groups and events. He was also patron of numerous organisations within Temora Shire. The thoughts and prayers of my fellow councillors, our staff and our citizens remain with Mrs Carlefeld and her family. We shall always remain grateful to Mr Carlefeld for the tremendous amount of good he has done for Temora Shire and the wider Riverina and throughout the world. And I'd ask all present in the chamber to please rise in your places and join with me in observing a moment's silence in honour of our past Freedom of the Temora Shire Award recipient. Thank you very much. Councillors, I require a motion, please, to move and second that we have the mayoral minute be noted. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, seconder for the motion. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much. Councillor Reinhold has seconded the motion. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. And thank you very much for that. Now, councillors, let's go to our business paper, our white pages, starting on page 9, the minutes of Council's Youth Advisory Committee. I was the chairman of that committee, and someone prepared to move that we receive. Thank you, Councillor Bushell, Councillor Good. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. There's the very busy youth report there for councillors' consideration. Councillor Bushell, did you have any comments?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to add the comment that I said in the meeting. We cop a lot of criticism that we're just solely roads, rates and rubbish, but when you look at this type of report and the outcomes that are so positive from it, outweighs any of those negative comments. So I just wanted to rehash those comments I said to Cherie. Thank you.
Now, thanks very much, Councillor Bushell, and I think we'd all endorse those remarks. Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. As a frequent visitor to the railway precinct, I've got to say that since the youth group and committee have been so active, there's very little vandalism up there nowadays. It's really, really good to see. I mean, we've probably gone through 3 sets of school holidays where we've had nothing much go wrong, really. So I don't know whether it's because there's someone there all the time or what. I just don't really know, but I really appreciate that it's not being vandalised anymore. So thank you, Mr Mayor. That's all
Thanks, Councillor Oliver, and that's really good for Council to hear that and the wider community, and I'm sure that the General Manager will pass those comments of appreciation on to the team. Councillors, you have the Youth Advisory Committee report and recommendations for you to consider. There is a recommendation that we adopt those reports and recommendations. Councillor Good, Councillor Bushell, moved, seconded, discussion. There's no discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thanks very much. Now, page 17, the minutes of the Temora Shire Council Signage Committee, and Councillor Judd is the chairman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll move the report be received.
Thank you. Councillor Judd's moved the reports received. Is there a seconder for the motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillor Judd, do you have anything you wish to highlight?
I think it's all well explained in the report and the minutes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillors, you have the report recommendations there for you to consider. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just one thing I'd like to mention or say about this. This is all this extra signage, and I see we're going to, budget for it and everything, and we're looking for grant funding to do it as well. But it's a little bit like silo art. Once you get it, there is a depreciation or a requirement in later years to upgrade it, and that's the only thing I'd like to say. I don't have any issues with the signage, but it will need replacing at one stage, so something we need to be probably mindful of.
No, thanks, Councillor Oliver, and that is a good point to remind us. That certainly is. Thanks, Councillor Oliver. Councillor Judd.
Just in comment to Councillor Oliver, I think the idea is in years to come, Councillor Oliver, that when our boundary signs and that need replacing or updating as well, that maybe we're able to incorporate Indigenous part into those signs as well, rather than having a separate freestanding sign. So that's a long-term view in a way. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Judd. Yes, you are quite right. Thank you. Anything further in relation to the Signage Committee report? If not, Councillor Irvine.
And just in further comment to Councillor Oliver's comments, I think that it was raised as to the age of the actual Temora town entry signs, and I think it was discovered that they were put in around 2007. So, it's just something that every community does, and by the time they get renewed, it'll be well in excess of 20 years. So there is a lifespan to it, there's no doubt, but it's just a cost of running a council, really.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. All I was alluding to was just the fact that we need a budget for this expense.
Yep.
Nothing more than that.
No.
So
No, that's right,
Thank you.
and thanks, Councillor Oliver, and your point is well made, and when financial sustainability is the number one issue facing rural regional councils in this state, it's appropriate that you share those reflections, so thank you. Councillors, you have the Signage Committee report and recommendations. Is someone prepared to move that, or is there an alternate? Councillor Good?
I'll move that be adopted.
Thank you. Councillor Good. Councillor Judd moved, seconded. Further discussion? There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. On the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Let's go to page 26, the minutes of Council's Assets and Operations Committee, and the Deputy Mayor is the chairman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I move the report be received.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor's moved the report be received for Assets and Operations. There is a second for the motion, please. Thank you, Councillor Good. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillor McLaren, you're still good as gold?
All good, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Just got to check in from time to time. Councillors, you have the report there. The Deputy Mayor, did you wish to add anything further in relation to the report?
Yes, Mr Mayor. As you probably all know, the asset meeting was held at the Springdale Town Hall, we'll call it. And in typical Springdale fashion, we were well looked after by the Progress Association. You all got to have a slice of cake or some apple slice and so forth, and it's very much appreciated, and we thank the people out there for looking after us on the day.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Yes, I think we'd all endorse those remarks, and some certainly had more than their fair share, Mr Deputy Mayor, of the apple slice, from what I observed. But it was just, it was just great to be out there, and as usual, well looked after. Councillors, any other comments in relation to the Assets and Operations Committee report? Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was an apology for that, so it's good to see that someone's continuing on with Thelma's hospitality, so that's good to see.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, others had your fair share of the tucker. Thanks, Councillor Bushell. Any other comments? If not, there's a report of the Assets and Operations Committee and a series of resolutions, recommendations rather, for Council to consider. Is someone prepared to move that, or is there an alternate? Councillor Good, thank you, has moved the Assets and Operations Committee report and recommendations. Seconded the Deputy Mayor. Councillor Sinclair moved, seconded. Discussion, further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried. Pardon me. Thank you. Councillors, let's go to page 55. Our delegates' reports. Do we have delegates' reports, please? Any delegates' reports? Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I represented the Temora Shire at the police awards ceremony on the 8th of May, and it was good to see a couple of our locals receiving awards. Sergeant Aaron Coddington got a couple, and Justin Faulkner got an award as well. But the one that did strike my eye was there's a little police officer who was stationed at Wilkenya. She was about 5'6", if she was that, and she received 2 awards for saving people's lives. One, they were both self-harm inflicted, and she gave this particular person CPR for almost 2 hours until the paramedics arrived. Now, 2 hours of life-saving work, so you can imagine how tired she must have been at the end of it. And the other one, she didn't have to work quite so hard, it was 40 minutes. So this is what they've got to do, we just think they enforce the law, but they save lives. They do so much more than we actually realise. So, it's, if anybody's ever got the opportunity to get the invitation, please take up the invitation and go and see what these people go through. I mean, there was others there that were, they got awards for the Lint Cafe siege, one fellow was there, and numerous other things, but yeah, they just put their lives on the line every single day. So, but I thank you for sending me across. It was really good. I've been to a couple of them now, so it's well worth your while if you get the opportunity. So that's all I've got to say, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Oliver, for that timely reminder about how special our police force are, and of course they cop it perhaps more than ever today. from various sections of the community and the media for that matter, but thank you for that reminder, and thank you for accepting the invitation. I had been to a couple previously. I think Councillor Judd's been before, and I think the Deputy Mayor, you've been before as well, but certainly it's appropriate that you go, Councillor Oliver, as Chairman of our Police Consultative Committee, so thank you very much. And we congratulate, of course, Sergeant Cottingham and Inspector Faulkner on their achievements. Any other delegates' reports, please? Councillor Judd.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I had the pleasure a few weeks ago of hosting the Mayor for a half-day visit to Area Park, and we made the priority this time of visiting a number of new businesses that have invested heavily in Area Park, and I think the Mayor was able to, I think it opened his eyes a little bit just to see what's going on out there, and yeah, I think it was well received too, we've taken interest in the place, and congratulating especially our new businesses who are trying to kick in a few goals. So yeah, it was a good day.
Thanks very much, Councillor Judd. And I have to, again, thank you very much for the invitation to spend that day with you and in our town of Area Park. It was an eye-opener, and I was just so impressed with the enthusiasm, particularly from the business community, and so many young ones that are taking the punt, but also the various community groups that are there just, as I say, kicking goals left, right and centre. The buzz and the optimism is most infectious, and I look forward to hopefully in one way or another working with you if we're all re-elected to council in whatever capacity. I'd really love the new council to be able to spend some of that time out there in terms of that extended time where possible to to absorb what is happening in the business and wider sector, and even the preschool. It just that amazes me how full on it is as well, but the confidence you could feel. So thanks very much, Councillor Judd, again for hosting me, and it was very, very impressive, an eye-opening occasion. So thank you. Any other delegates' reports? Just mentioned, councillors, that the General Manager and I, of course, was in Sydney last week, attended the Local Government New South Wales Regional and Rural Summit. It was at the State Library, and I'd actually never been in that conference centre before. Very, very impressive. Laura Jays from Sky News was the Master of Ceremonies, and she was outstanding. And frankly, it was probably one of the best summits that we've seen in terms of the speakers. Minister Honig was, again, I think very, very candid as well. And I think those different forums in relation, of course, to financial sustainability and those sorts of things, again, it's front and centre of rural regional councils' minds, as you'd be aware. And also, as you know, we met with Minister for Regional Roads and Transport, Minister Aitchison, on that Thursday, and of course the reports in pink pages. And then, of course, the Friday was the Country Mayors meeting in Sydney, and that to the highest attendance is 142 mayors and general managers. And I must admit, what impressed me above anything else was Minister Aitchison not only spending a significant amount of time addressing and answering questions within the room, but also offered to spend an hour outside for any mayor or general manager that wished to go out and talk to her about issues that are important to their council and their community. So I think that gesture sent a very strong message that she's taking rural, regional, local government very, very seriously, and hopefully we'll see some results in that space. But certainly, councillors, talking as the General Manager and I did with a lot of mayors and GMs, that the amount of special rate variations that are happening, that have happened, that are in the pipeline, that are being discussed in our case, it is a real eye-opener a real eye-opener, and it's something that is going to be the norm. And I know this council have to look at that, or the council of the day, very, very seriously, because we are now in a minority of not actually formally going on that journey. So that's a very brief summary, and there's, of course, reports will be furnished to you in due course. And then further that I had our Sportsperson of the Year dinner, which of course is tomorrow evening. That's something that we're looking forward to attending. Councillor Oliver, I know, is attending, and actually the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, just advised that he's also attending in an unofficial capacity. But it's great that we'll have good representation there to acknowledge our great sportsmen and women of Temora Shire as well. Further delegates' reports, Councillor Irvine.
Just a comment in relation to the special rate variations. I haven't read the full article, but I think Snowy Valley's got knocked back. I think they were going for a permanent 42%. So anyway, they're not all granted. So it's not the silver bullet. There's other, everything else has to be considered as well. So they're not automatic.
Oh no, that's very true, Councillor Irvine, but again, more are being accepted than are being rejected. And just remember, Snowy Valleys has also had other previous 40+% increases previously, which I think had something to do with IPART's decision, if I'm analysing it accurately. So nothing further in terms of delegates' reports? If not, let us move on to page 56, the Mayor's report for the month of April, and there's a recommendation, councillors, that the Mayor's report be noted on page 58.
I'll move that way.
Thank you, Councillor Good. Seconded for the motion, Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Discussion. There's no discussion. I'll put the motion. All those with that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you. Over to page 59. Motion please receiving staff reports. Councillor Reinhold, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Good. Thank you very much. Moved, seconded. All those with that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 60, the General Manager's report, 12.1, calendar of events. The General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. Nothing further to add. The report is as written. However, I will note that it is a busy few months coming up for Council.
Thanks, Madam General Manager. And yes, you are spot on. It is extremely busy, but we love being busy, and we'll do our best. Councillors, I just flag that June that the General Manager and I weren't attending the Country Mayors Conference in Kempsey. The General Manager still won't be, but I now will be. As the Chairman of Country Mayors is an apology, so I have to attend, but it's on roads and transport, so I think that it'll be a very, very good one to attend. And the walk and talk tour, that's just for the General Manager and I to finish the rest of the Hoskin Street. So if anyone else is available, please reach out to us. That would be great. And the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, and the General Manager will be representing Temora Shire at the ALGA, Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly in Canberra. So I thank the Deputy Mayor for being able to attend that as well. Nothing further. Calendar events. If not, someone prepared to move that the calendar events be noted. Thank you, Councillor Bushell. Councillor Good. Moved. Seconded. Discussion. No discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. We go over to page 61, the Engineering Services report, and we have nil to report, so all's going well, all in hand by the looks of it, Mr. Engineer. Out of hand. No, you're doing well from all reports, so thank you for managing those two roles, and Council are very, very grateful to you for that. Let's go to page 62, Environmental Services, 14.1, Planning Proposal. The Acting Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I've got a report here regarding planning proposal that relates to Area Park Village. Council first considered this back in 2020, councillors might recall. The process was delayed due to the need to complete the Area Park floodplain risk management plan. Now that that is completed, I've brought this draft planning proposal, an updated version, back for council's consideration. Just also to note that as a preview with this report being able to be viewed in the public domain, council did receive a short submission from a resident where they expressed their interest in the extension of the rezoning area to be considered, which was towards the east of Area Park as well. We have responded back to this person advising that this submission could be considered further as part of an exhibition period should this draft planning proposal be supported by council and also the Department of Planning. But it's for council's consideration.
Thank you, Madam Acting Director. Councillors, you have the report there. You have that added information. Councillor Judd.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It is indeed pleasing to see this report finally come back to council after 4+ years. If I'm advising anyone who's standing for council at all in the future, one thing you have to have is patience. And this has surely been testing my patience. But it's one of the things I've been very keen on to try and promote development in Area Park. I think, as the Mayor said earlier, Area Park's on a bit of a high at the moment. There's a lot of demand, a lot of good businesses starting. There's a lot of people showing promise, enthusiasm for the future, and I think there's been a lot of demands for houses and blocks, and I think now's the time to be trying to do something. And so I'm very keen on it, and it's certainly it's an area I'd like to promote, and as noted earlier in the report, the large lot residential zone that was proposed many years ago on the western side was never supported by me or the council at the time, but was recommended by a consultant. So I think we need to do it locally, not have outside consultants tell us what we should be doing. So, and it's good to see that this is hopefully will get approved by the department and by this council. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Judd. We go to Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think it's that Area Park does need areas that can be further developed. My concern, though, is that council in the past have nominated areas for rezoning, and there's a prime example on this plan that was rezoned a large lot residential zone, and nothing's happened to it for 20 years. My preference is, before we make this recommendation, is for the owners of these blocks to be contacted to see what sort of appetite they have for development. I'm aware that developing blocks, particularly subdivisions, can be very expensive, particularly with all the requirements for services that are needed. And I'd hate to see that the land be rezoned and that it again sits there for another 20 years and not be used. So that would be my preference.
Thank you, Councillor Good. Just in response, the Acting Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So if the draft planning proposal was supported by council and then subsequently supported by the Department of Planning to go to public exhibition, the landowners that are directly affected, as well as adjoining landowners, are directly notified, as well as part of a broader community consultation. So we will be able to seek direct feedback from those landowners in a hope to gauge their level of interest in future development of their land.
As part of this process that's being recommended.
As part of this process that's being recommended.
Yep, thank you very much. Councillor Good, did you have a response? Sorry, thank you, Councillor Irvine. I'll just go back to Councillor Good.
I think that's probably going to be too late because by that stage the department's recommended it, we've endorsed the plan, and it's we really won't know at that stage. If they say no, I'm happy with what I've got, we've really gone too far to I would prefer to get that feedback before we endorse the draft planning proposal.
So, thank you, Councillor Good. So you don't think that what you're suggesting could be part of what's being recommended in terms of this exhibition, public submission, feedback, etc.?
It could be, but I think it would need to be number one, that the council approach the people who are in the area that is proposed to be rezoned to obtain their appetite as to redevelopment, and then if we get sufficient feedback and support, then we would I would see we would then go down the pathway that's in the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Good. Just some advice from the General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would just refer to the town planner to find out what the required process is in terms of the steps that we must undertake under a planning proposal. It may be that the process that is recommended is the process that we must follow in terms of the requirements. So I'll just put that to the town planner.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. The Acting Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So council can do any kind of consultation that it wishes. It can write to landowners, ask for their feedback. There's no requirement for people to respond, or they may make statements and then change their mind. So that we can seek some guidance. This proposal does include quite a number of landowners who might have no plans in the future, or it might be a future owner takes responsibility for developing the land. What we need to do is to try to seek the most strategic decisions in terms of what the land zoning should be, and make those decisions based on the need of the community. We're making a recommendation based on our knowledge of existing land uses and the potential for future land uses that are consistent with the zoning, which is why we're putting forward the village zone, where the land is generally already used like a village, but it will have some greater potential for use if the zone did change. And then with the land that's proposed to be large lot residential, it's land that is on the fringe of Area Park Village, and we deem as being most suitable for that kind of land use rather than a village use. If we are going to provide some sort of large lot residential, we believe this to be the best site, but we can also take feedback as part of the formal consultation process. If there was strong objections, council would definitely have to take that into consideration and perhaps remove some of the zoning changes if council thought it was necessary.
Thank you, Madam Acting Director. So I'm just going to let you ponder, Councillor Good, whether you'd like to even add as an addition to the recommendation that point that you've flagged, because I'm going to go to a patient, Councillor Irvine. Thanks, Councillor Irvine.
Council have got a couple of big projects before them relative to Area Park that are still requiring some resolution in terms of there's a sewage scheme being considered, and that's in process, and there's also further works highlighted and flagged in the flood study that really do affect these two areas that are identified to the north of town. And as pointed out by the town planner or acting director, that the proposed village zone there is already being used in that space. It's certainly not being used as rural. It's all subdivided and there's a lot of occupancies and different titles already in that area. So The parcel of land identified to the west, is on good sloping ground with no waterlogging issues or any adverse effects if on-site sewage treatment was to become the accepted or adopted solution out there. I think the area most north is fairly well affected in, as shown by the details of the flood study. We're also getting a fair way from the CBD. The town appears to be developing away from the CBD or the service centre of the town as opposed to around. And I note that a housing forum or a forum to discuss future housing needs has been proposed for the new council relative to Temora. I think it might be more sensible to refer this decision point to that same process to get a little bit more clarity around a few of these big picture items. And further, there is an issue that's fairly obvious in Area Park that Temora faced a few years ago with a lot of underutilised land already in the developed urban area. There's a hell of a lot of blocks. Every second block's vacant or more. And there needs to be some sort of a process undertaken to release some of those blocks. Now, you can't compel someone to sell a block, and I don't know if there's ever been a situation where you can increase rates on underutilised vacant land to try and provide some impetus for the reluctant landowners to either do something on them or release them. But there's a huge amount of blocks already available in that CBD that aren't being utilised. The two parcels of land to the north, one's been used subject to a different zoning and is flood affected. The other one is flood affected. The only parcel of land that I see of any real residential value is the lot to the west, but I don't see any reason why that couldn't be a larger parcel either. But I just think there's a lot of big questions here that need to be fleshed out a little bit more before council were to take a full-blown planning proposal to the department.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I do want to push what I've been talking about. I know in Temora there's at least 3 lots of land that was subdivided 30 years ago. Out of those, only one has just had a DA approved for subdivision. This one here it's in Area Park. The zoning of it was changed. There's nothing that happened there, and I would imagine that's probably 30 years ago as well. So I'd like to move the recommendation, but with an amendment that number 1 is that council consult the owners of the proposed affected land to ascertain their appetite for development, and then on receiving that the report comes back to council for those next 4 points. As in the 4 points in the recommendation.
So it's an additional point, Councillor Good, to what's being proposed here?
Actually, thinking about it, it'll be a whole new resolution basically stating that what I've said, and then that returns to council.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Good. Can we capture that, please? Councillor Good, can you just repeat the motion that you're putting?
Over we go. The council contact the registered proprietors or the owners of the land proposed to be affected to ascertain whether they would be willing to develop their land if the zoning was changed.
Not they'd be willing. What's the other word to tease that out? Their position.
Their short to medium term intentions with the land.
Their intentions, yeah. Just while we're crafting that, I'm just going to go to the General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. in terms of a strategic approach, relying on current land owners to be complicit with a strategic approach to zoning of land prior to making a decision is not necessarily taking a strategic planning approach to this particular matter. There could be change of hands, there could be change of ownership. It is not necessarily giving us the strategic big picture direction that was initiated by council back in 2020 by taking this approach at this point in time. That would be my comment in terms of, from a strategic planning direction, this it doesn't necessarily inform that strategic approach moving forward.
So thank you, Madam General Manager. So your position is, in terms of advice for council, is the recommendation that's on the bottom of page 66?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Good, you've heard from the General Manager in terms of her comments. Do you still wish to proceed with your motion?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion, please? Seconder?
Yeah, I'll second it.
So councillor Irvine has seconded the motion. So is there any further discussion? I'm going to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I think we need to look a bit further ahead than what is there currently, and this is probably similar to what the General Manager just said. Just because maybe the current owners may not wish to develop it, doesn't mean to say that by rezoning it's going to add value to these blocks, and they may put them in a position where I think we'll sell this on and let someone else develop it. So I don't think it's going to end up like just, if people want to develop it, it will get developed. Maybe not by the current owners, but possibly someone else who's in a position to develop it.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I agree with the Deputy Mayor and the General Manager. I think you've got to be thinking long term in this sort of thing, and it's. I can see if you did a survey of the present owners, first of all you'd have to do a very good education thing about what planning is all about. And I think most of them would say, oh, it all looks too hard, they wouldn't be interested. But I think you've got to be, as I say, look at the big picture, and I can see, maybe the present owners don't want to do it, but I can see the future wanting to happen. But I'll go back to what earlier comment about the previous allotment on the western side. The owners of that land were never going to want to sell it anyway. Like there was no contact made with them about whether they wanted to sell, and yet the council today went ahead and put it there. It's I think you've got to. Whereas the land that we're mainly basically talking about, it's not primary reduction land. It's like rural subdivision land already, and I think we just give the present owners and future owners a chance to further develop the land. And I think we can't lose anything by rezoning. It's a matter of just adding to the potential of the town district.
Thanks very much, Councillor Judd. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just have a question regarding the proposed resolution or motion, however it's said. Is there a time frame regarding seeking
Oh
their
yes,
appetite
I don't
and
think.
giving any direction? Because, are we going to be seeing this here in this room, or is it going to be discussed in the next council?
Thanks, Councillor Bushell. Councillor Good, I don't think there's any time frame in the motion that you've put to council. Did you wish to comment, Councillor Good?
I don't think we need a time frame because obviously it depends on council staff and when they can get around to it. I wouldn't like to put a time frame on that's not achievable, and I don't think it's hard for me to say this is an appropriate time because I don't know what the staff what their
The priorities
are and what other sort of work they've got.
Yeah, no, thanks.
I'd just like to say one other thing too. I just hate to be here in 20 years' time and we're having the same discussion because the same thing happened to this block that we rezoned 20 years ago, and nothing happened. That's all.
Thanks, Councillor Good. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you. Sorry, maybe I didn't make that clear to Councillor Good, but like the time frame that as soon as we write to them, that they have 30 days to get back to us, or that's what the time frame I'm saying, not putting pressure on staff. The time frame, once they receive the letter, how long they have to get back in contact with us. So
Thank
that way
you.
we have a little bit of a indicative process.
Thank you, Councillor Bushell. The Acting Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So if this was council's wish, we could write to landowners straight away, but I think they would need at least a month to respond and then for us to prepare a report. So we really couldn't consider this again till July or perhaps August before we would have a response back to council.
And then August is effectively the last council meeting and it's caretaker mode, yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much. Just to wind up the... Oh, is Councillor McLaren, she got a hand up?
Yes.
Ah, right. Thank you. Councillor McLaren?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I agree with the General Manager on the strategic view Council needs to make about this future land zoning. I think if we make the rezoning decision or put it out there for decision, it helps inform our response to the flood study and any drainage and requirements that may be required moving forward, given that the view is that there'll be additional development in that area. I think knowing those rezoning decisions enables you to plan other infrastructure needs around it. So, and I think the land on the west, some of it was never going to be used as rural residential, I think, because there was an entrance to a farm. So I think the consultant didn't know the lay of the land and at the time. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor McLaren. And sorry, every time I looked at you, I didn't see your hand. So thank you. To wind up the debate on this important matter, Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, just a question. So to the town planner, on page 64, there's a map. The area to the west of Mary Gilmore Way, is that currently zoned rural?
So the Acting Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So you're referring to land, it was shown here west of Davidson Street?
Or east of Mary Gilmore Way, virtually in line with the two northern parcels that are proposed. So the top right of the map. The top right.
So all, thank you, Mr Mayor. So all land that's north of Mandamar Street is zoned primary production. So both the land that's proposed RU5 village and the land that's proposed R5 large lot residential, that is all zoned RU1 primary production presently.
The question is the land across Mary Gilmore Way.
Councillor Irvine, microphone please. Councillor Irvine.
And yes, and all of that is all the same. So it's all the same colour, it's all the same zone, it's
Thank
all
you for
primary production.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. So, and that's probably the point I'm trying to make is that land should also probably be included in this proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. I'm going to put the motion now, and the motion is that we have before you from Councillor Good, Councillor Irvine, that Council consult the owners of the properties affected and ascertain their appetite for development, and on receiving that information, that a report be presented back to Council. I'm now going to put that motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion lost. So, councillors, you do have a recommendation there on page 66 for you to consider, or is there an alternate? Councillor Judd.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Judd has moved the recommendation. Is there a seconder? Councillor Reinhold, thank you. Moved, seconded, discussion. No further discussion. I will, Councillor Irvine.
Well, just to put it on the table, I think the proposal needs more thought, and there's other areas of land that are suitable to be included, and I think it's probably just a little bit premature to be going to planning without the a little bit more consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. For the contrary, no. I declare the motion, thank you, I declare the motion carried. The General Manager.
Sorry, because it is a planning matter, we just need to confirm
yes.
that we've got the show of hands
Okay,
correct. Sorry,
thank you.
councillors, I should have reminded you of that.
Thank you. I should have known that too. So, planning decision, councillors. So I'll ask again, the motion that's been put to us. Do you want us to go back? No. So let's go back to this motion in relation to Councillor Judd, Councillor Reinhold, and that is the recommendations 1, 2, 3 and 4 on page 66. All those of that opinion, please raise your hands. Councillor McLaren as well, thank you. Those opposed to the motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Irvine, Councillor Good, Councillor Bushell. So again, declare the motion carried, and those against are recorded, of course, as those that are in favour are recorded. So thank you very much, councillors. Let's now go over to page 106, 14.2, New South Wales Heavy Vehicle Access Policy. The Acting Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this report was just to draw to Council's attention that there is a New South Wales Heavy Vehicle Access Policy that is on public exhibition, and Council staff will be reviewing this policy in detail and will be seeking to make a submission.
Thank you, Madam Acting Director. Council, again, it's an important policy that's out there for comment, and it would be most appropriate, I would have thought, that we'd make a submission. Councillor Good.
Yes, I'd like to move the recommendation. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Good. Seconded, Councillor Bushell. Moved, seconded. No further discussion. Councillor Good.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. This proposal, particularly for a town like Temora, is, I was going to say frightening, but it's not really frightening, but it could be, it will affect towns like us because we have these heavy vehicles going up our main street day in and day out. And I thought it was ironic that when Prime News came over to do a story, the trucks just kept on coming and coming so that they couldn't really be heard, which just goes to show how often it's used. And if these trucks, as I understand it, up to 60 metres and a 78-tonne payload, come up our main street, it is potentially life-threatening. And I definitely think we need to make a submission. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Councillor Good. Well, again, the unfortunate is we've articulated to the Minister and Transport there are road trains illegally coming through now, and we've had it, frankly. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion. Councillor Irvine, before I put the motion.
Yeah, I was in Griffith yesterday morning, and the truck volumes there coming up the Kidman Way and the development in Griffith is just mind-blowing. And they're running big road trains all in and around Griffith. They're in the process of trying to get some sort of a bypass in place. But truck traffic and development go hand in hand. Truck traffic and primary production go hand in hand. You can't separate one from the other. You know, and the road freight operators are going to have the final say on all this, and the almighty dollar is going to speak. It's, you know, it's true that Temora has a truck issue, but every town in Australia has a truck issue. You only got to look at Wagga and see that leg of the Sturt Highway that runs right through Edward Street, right through the middle of town, and the volume of traffic that they cope with in that situation. Now, they've got a bit of a bypass for the north-south stuff, but for the east-west going, you know, Sydney-Adelaide, they cop the lot straight up the middle. Every town on the Newell, from north and south of here, are affected in some way. So we've just got to figure it out and get on with it because it's just something that we can't avoid.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I know that the policy is regarding heavy vehicles on roads. Will the submission include endorsement or encouragement to utilise our train tracks, like rail? Will that be something that would be included?
Thank you, Councillor Bushell. The Acting Director.
Yeah, that sounds like an excellent idea to also reinforce that we have got rail transport there that should be considered as part of the transport solution.
Thank you. Yes, and just noting that we've only got until the 31st of May to have this submission, which I know that it's certainly well documented council's views on all of these things, but I would encourage councillors, if this motion is passed, again, if you have any other thoughts when you leave the chamber and you're thinking of things of a night, please send them through as soon as you can to the General Manager. Thank you. Engineer?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Listen, I was really only going to say that, you know, the conversation around road transport versus rail transport, you know, I think there's a bit of a trend over the past 20 years where there's lots of talk about rail, but in actual fact, the trucks are becoming so efficient that there's consolidation of rail, you know, grain receival sites and lots more movement of product with trucks to sort of major rail terminals, which is having a large impact on council. And I'm not sure of the answer to it, but yeah, it's a very difficult question to ask. I think the intention is, and they say they want to get as much transport as possible on rail, but in an actual practical sense in this region, it's the opposite's happening.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to put the motion, and of course the motion is from Councillor Good, Councillor Bushell, that Council make a submission on the draft policy, New South Wales Heavy Vehicle Access Policy, safe, productive and sustainable road freight, noting the positions of Council and any other comments that we've heard today. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried. And please, thank you for that, and please send any further thoughts to the General Manager. Thank you. Nothing of an urgent late nature from the Acting Director.
No, Mr Mayor, thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's now go to page 107, the Administration Finance Department report, 15.1, the draft fees and charges. The Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the draft fees and charges are presented for Council's consideration. In accordance with the direction from the budget workshop, most of the fees and charges have been increased by 5%. That obviously excludes any statutory fees and any fees that might be under some sort of contract arrangement. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Madam Director. I can now go to Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to move the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bushell is moving the recommendation that states that the draft fees and charges for 2024-2025 be placed on public exhibition for comment for 28 days. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Good. Moved, seconded, discussion. There's no discussion. Other than councillors, that yes, of course, council did a workshop, and you know, it's really tough for councillors and for staff. And again, commend the Director for Administration Finance and her finance team on the work they've done thus far in this space. But it is very tough. Financial sustainability is a major issue, and this 5% increase is necessary. And we just need our community to help in this space, and we will get there with that help of our community, as we always do. So I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, over to page 122, 15.2, the draft budget. The Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So following the budget, there was several issues identified which have now been adjusted for, resulting in an overall surplus of $117,000. However, the budget presented indicates a budget deficit of an operating deficit of 740,000. It's based on a rate peg increase of 4.5%, which was what was allowed for Temora Shire Council by IPART. And I've outlined a couple of significant capital works programs, I suppose, there. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Madam Director. Councillors, I think you'd be aware that every other rural regional council, New South Wales, are going through obviously what we're going through, and dare I say, ours, is not as bad a situation as perhaps some others. However, at the end of the day, I am proud of the fact that we've budgeted for a surplus. However, I think we all know that that will be gobbled up in a very short time if we're being realistic. But again, it's a budget that amplifies. There's an excellent capital works program ahead of us, an important one, but again, that we really do need to revisit these sources of income that we have, and that includes support from federal and state governments, and I'm pleased that at least the federal and state governments have inquiry into local government financial sustainability, which we hope that there'll be some positives that come from those inquiries. And being in local government, we live in hope, as a famous CEO at Rerock once told me. Councillor Good.
I move the recommendation.
Thank you. So Councillor Good has moved the recommendation. Councillor Oliver's seconded the motion, and that is that Council place the draft operational plan, delivery plan and resourcing strategy on public exhibition for 28 days. There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. And again, thank the Director and your team for the effort that's been put in thus far. Councillors, let's go over to page 161, 15.3 Quarterly Budget Review. The Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the budget review's being presented. A couple of adjustments there for this quarter, and our projected end of year result is looking at a deficit of 2.8 million. However, the big uncertainty, I suppose, is in relation to what will happen in relation to the FAGs in advance payment. So if they pay in advance again, as they have done in previous years, that could significantly improve that budgeted position. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Madam Director. Councillors, you have the quarterly budget review there for you to consider, and there's a recommendation to also be considered. Councillor Good.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Good's moving the recommendation that states that Council adopt the quarterly budget review for the quarter ending 31st of March 2024. Is there a second to Councillor Reinhold? Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Moved, seconded. Discussion. Councillor McLaren.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question for the Director of Administration Finance. How much is she expecting the FAGS grants to be, potentially, and what were they last year?
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. The Director. You're right. If you can, otherwise you can take it on notice.
Through you, Mr Mayor, it's approximately $5 million for the FAGS grant.
Significant. Thank you. Councillor McLaren?
Thank you, that's wonderful.
Happy? Hopefully, I think you see, Councillor McLaren, with the submissions that all the rural regional councils especially are putting in at the moment to these state and federal reviews, are that we're after this 1% of the total Commonwealth tax revenue, and that's something we've all got to, and we will be singing off the same hymn sheet, because that would effectively double, wouldn't it, what we're receiving, approximate?
So through you, Mr Mayor, the FAGS allocation's currently, I think, 0.51% of total income tax. So if it went to 1, yeah, it would almost double our FAGS allocation, I assume.
Make a big difference to everybody. And I personally, again, being optimistic as we're discussing the motion, we have an active state President LGNSW, Chairman of CMA, and the ALGA President, who have a very good rapport with the federal government as well, and who knows what positives may come. So I'm going to put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. I won't know what to do with myself when all this is finished, Madam Director. Nothing of an urgent late nature from the Director?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. And again, thank you for all the effort. Let's go to 174, correspondence 16.1, Bush Bursary, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We received correspondence inviting council to participate again in this particular program. We do have money allocated in the draft 24-25 budget to support this, should council support the recommendation.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. I go to Councillor Good.
I move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Good's moved the recommendation that states council participates in the 2024-2025 Bush Bursary program by providing accommodation, organising the program for the students, and understand it's $2 by $1,500 that's in the budget. Is that right, Director?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, thank you. So Councillor Good's moved that way. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, has seconded the motion. Discussion. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. As you probably know, the council's been doing this bush bursary for quite a number of years now, and while our funds are certainly short, I think this is something that's shown us being well worthwhile over that period of time. It's money well spent, I think, in getting particularly some of these younger, inspiring doctors from out of the city areas to rural areas, and just seeing what happens out here as a general practice and so forth. So I think it's something we need to keep on doing, and we just need to find the money, because I think that in the long term it comes back to help us out and for our doctors and so forth in the rural areas, whether it comes back to Temora or somewhere else, but it's certainly, it's just a pity somewhere more councils didn't get behind it.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor, and I endorse those remarks, and it just shows that we're trying to be proactive, and I'm proud of the Temora Shire for many, many years for being very proactive in this space. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. In the beginning, we've done this every second year. That is still the case, I understand.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
No, I do endorse Deputy Mayor's comments. It's a good thing to get into. I actually had the privilege of talking to this Chris, I forget his surname now, Russell, and he seems like a pretty switched on sort of a fella, so yeah, anyway. So thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I support the program. It's been, as Councillor Sinclair said, it's been going on for many years. I recently had a talk with one of our young doctors at the medical centre, and he was doing time at different medical practices around the area. And I think we've got to be hosting a lot of these young doctors, different times, student doctors, so that tomorrow it becomes one of their, hopefully their preferred alternatives when they make a final decision where to go. So if they don't come here, we won't be considered. So that's anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Judd. You're spot on, and we've just heard earlier in the public forum from Mr and Mrs Boswell from the Railway Hotel that what was it that made them stay, and it was our people. And I think that was one of the loveliest compliments this Shire community could receive, and it goes back to what you're saying. If we get them here, we've got a chance. So thanks, Councillor Judd. Councillors, you've got the motion from Councillor Good and the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. That is to adopt the recommendation, and that is by supporting the Bush Bursary program. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very, very much. Madam General Manager, any urgent late items of correspondence, please?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
No, thank you. Councillors, we have to page 177. We have nil business with notice. We have nil notices of motion. Is there any urgent business without notice? Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. If you would indulge me, I'd just like to let council know that this week was the 20th anniversary of Lilia Lodge in Wagga, which is the accommodation centre for the cancer treatment centre over there. This started 20 years ago, and I went to the official opening at the time I was mayor, and Temora Shire Council and Temora Shire community were heavily involved in raising the money for Lilia Lodge. You know, it's not something that benefits Wagga. It has to be the regions who have to go to Wagga to have the treatment. And at the time, we had Lindsay and Alison Frater were the drivers in our local community. Lindsay was the head of Cancer Patients Assistance Society at the time, and we raised a significant amount of money to go towards Lilia Lodge, and I pay tribute to those people. And it's certainly, I listened to a tribute on the radio the other day that they've hosted many people over all these past 20 years. It's been an essential service for people who live out of Wagga and can't travel and need accommodation. So it's a project that I think Temora Shire can be well and truly proud of, being one of the well and truly partners in that program. And I that's just like to record that that was one of our great achievements in this Shire community. I must mention that it was at that time that Lindsay was Cancer Patients Assistance Society chairman, but after that I think we changed the name to Can Assist, and that's when Can Assist took over and become assisting with all the travel and had to go to Lilia Lodge and have treatment in Wagga. So anyway, thanks, Mr Mayor.
No, that's great. Thanks, Councillor Judd. And I do obviously accepted that as urgent, because obviously this is the week, and thank you for reminding us. We've all been touched by the Big C in different ways, through family or friends, and it's just very comforting to know that we have that special place, and we need to be reminded of how it come to be. And thanks for sharing that, Councillor Judd. No other urgent business without notice. If not, we go over to page 178, the councillor's information paper. Motion to receive the information paper, please. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Oliver, moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Items in the information paper, Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have a few, so...
Yes?
Yes. I just want to note that we've got, 16 approvals in the DA for April 2024. Congratulations to the team.
Excellent.
I noted in the paper on, I think, the 3rd of May, they announced that Dustin Rose Estate was open. Have we received any applications for Anderson Street or the other streets since this report was...
Thank you. Councillor Bushell is the Acting Director of Environmental Services.
No formal applications, but yeah, we've certainly had some sort of pre-lodgement discussions. Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Bushell, sorry. The Director of Administration Finance.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just in relation to Dustin Rose, we had 3 properties settle through this week, and I think there's approximately 17 scheduled to settle next week.
Well done.
Thank you, Madam Director. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And the other thing I had, it was disappointing to read in the Town Hall theatre notes about the power failure and everything for that evening. So what happened with that? It's on page 204.
Page 204. The Acting Director, are you aware, or we can take that on notice if you wish?
Yeah, I had read this myself, and it was quite distressing to read. That was disappointing that happened, but I will have to take it on notice to follow up with you about what actually happened and what the outcome was.
Thank you.
Thank you, and you'll furnish that to Council.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Bushell.
Hopefully one more just combined thing. With the Lake Centenary Management Committee, it's disappointing to read in the minutes of April about the jet skis in the swimming area. I think that needs to be highlighted in our newspapers or whatever, just to say that that's a no-go. I know that the Lake Centenary Committee are probably doing all efforts they can, but I think we need to use other avenues in that scope to ensure that our swimmers are going to be protected. It's very disappointing to see that.
So Councillor Bushell, if I may, just on that, the Deputy Mayor and the General Manager and I will be meeting with the executive of Lake Centenary Management Committee, and we can certainly discuss with them the ways that we can work together to enhance and assist further what you're suggesting. Thank you. Councillor Bushell?
And the one question I also had, possibly to the Deputy Mayor, was the March minutes, the mentioning of the damn concrete walking track being undermined. Is there further information that we can receive on that, as mentioned in the Lake Centenary Management Committee minutes and the general business?
Thank you, Councillor Bushell. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, in relation to the walking track, that was a report that I got on the walk and talk tour from one of the businesses. Apparently on an inspection that couldn't be found what they're talking about, so yes, I'm not sure what's going on there. What was the first point? The jet skis, that's right. There was two of the committee members were out there on the day and spoke to these young people that were on the jet skis, and they said they didn't realise they weren't allowed to be in there, but I thought it would have been pretty obvious, but anyway, that they did seem like they were sorry they did it, so they weren't being smart or anything like that. So.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillor Bushell, you've concluded? Thank you. But no, that's what it's about. Thank you. Councillor Good.
I might be able to be of assistance with the walking track. The walking track, the southern side of it, it was undermined there where it was low where the cage used to be. But I was out there on the weekend and that's been filled in somewhat. So it's not as bad as it was.
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor Good. Any further items in the information paper? Councillor Irvine.
Just on that walk and track at the lake, there's some pretty serious concrete path damage at the start of the track on Mr Fisher's.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Yes, so you're aware of it, Mr Engineer?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. It's been like that for some time. A concrete truck drove over it, but it must be a pretty ordinary foundation there because there's similar things up a bit further. In terms of a fix, I'm not sure when, but I'm aware of it.
Thank you, Mr Engineer. Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Further items in the information paper, Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to comment on the result of the Town Hall Theatre. The year-to-date, their deficit is, this time last year, the deficit was 23,000 and they've improved that to just over 10,000, and that's a significant improvement. Yep. So I just want to congratulate the management of the Town Hall Theatre.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor McLaren, and yes, I think that was very good to see, and it's great to see them working hard to drum up as much business and come up with all these different innovative ideas. Yeah, that's really good to see. Councillors, also just wanted to amplify on page 220, where the General Manager and I have reached out, of course, on behalf of Council and our community, to the Mayor and Council and community of Waverley, of course, where that sickening act took place, where lives were lost, innocent lives, and we've also been communicating as well on the phone to the Mayor of Waverley, just again amplifying the point that they're very grateful for the prayers and support that they've received from Temora Shire. Nothing further from the information paper. If not, in accordance with section 10A of the Local Government Act, I advise that there are several matters that are deemed confidential and accordingly I require information to have that matter considered. Thank you, the Deputy Mayor. Councillor Sinclair, seconder. Thank you, Councillor Good. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried.
Recording in progress.
Does the recording commence? recommence. Thank you. We resume back into open council, and I now ask the General Manager to read that the following resolutions have been brought forward from closed session into open. The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The resolution from closed council was in relation to the Temora heavy vehicle alternate route. It was resolved that council note the report, prepare a submission to the Riverina Murray Strategic Regional Integrated Transport Plan in line with the April 2023 resolution of council regarding the Temora heavy vehicle alternate route, when consultation commences in September 2024, and that the community consultation be promoted in relation to the Strategic Regional Integrated Transport Plan. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. You've heard the resolutions. We need a mover to formally adopt those resolutions. Councillor McLaren has moved that way. Thank you. Seconder for the motion, Councillor Good, moved. Seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. There being no further business for Temora Shire Council, I thank you very, very much for your attendance, and I declare the meeting closed.